Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Dragonic Overlord deck profile for post the Heroic Evolution. It feels like we just had an update to the Dragonic Overlord deck, which in fact we did with the release of Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction, but with the Heroic Evolution we now have the newest form of Dragonic Overlord in standard format, being Dragonic Overlord The End, a very powerful grade 3 with strong restanding capabilities, being able to restand twice in a turn if the right specifications are met for the card. And I wanted to bring an update to Dragonic Overlord with the newest support, which definitely focuses all around the newest unit, Dragonic Overlord The End. And I'm also planning on getting a bunch of other different deck profiles out from the Heroic Evolution. We have plenty of different decks for Nova Grappler, Link Joker, and Kagero to release, but I figured I'd start with one of my favorite ones, since I also had a good amount of support already for it. Just missing a few cards for the deck, but I'll show in the video, obviously, with the cards that I am representing in the deck profile, what I would take out for those cards. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. Now, those of you that saw my Heroic Evolution opening saw I pulled half of the Dragonic Overlord The Ends I need. So you want to run 4 of this card in the deck. At the end of the battle that it attacked, you can activate 1 of the effects below, but you cannot activate that same effect on the same turn of the turn you used it. You can, if your hand is 4 or less, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and stand this unit. It gets Drive -1 until end of turn. Or you can also, if your soul has a card with Overload in its card name, you can discard 3 cards and stand this unit, and it gets plus 10,000 and Drive -1 until end of turn. So both of the effects really do complement one another, being able to set up the 4 or less in your hand with the second effect, and also just having the Overlord in the soul is the basic trend that all the different Dragonic Overlords are following, with the deck having that set up with your original Dragonic Overlord on your Vanguard circle. So most of the time with Dragonic Overlord The End, I do the discard 3 effect and restand this, giving it the power along with potential force markers I could have. And then for the second restand, I use the Counterblast, Soul Blast, because most of the time with the other skills I use in the deck, the only soul I'll have in the soul is the grade 3, so you don't really want to be without that soul or you'll miss out on one of the other restands with this card. But it's a very powerful card. Like I said, you can really finish your opponent with this card solely, as long as you set it up quick enough, being able to have that pressure and you have all the resources needed for the restand, obviously. So a definite 4 of in the deck. And then for the backup grade 3, I am running the 4 Dragonic Overlord. Now, I've tried, and I might work on another version, where I mix the Great with the End together, but you really can't use the End either unless you have a card with Overlord and Soul. So just having the original Dragonic Overlord for your setup with its plus 10,000 power and its discard 2 when attack hits, Counterblast 1 to restand and Drive -1. It doesn't require any cards in your Soul, so you're able to use this card as your first ride target and then go into the end on your next ride target. Also setting up your force markers with this card as well is one of your key plays to go for especially, and then just being able to have this card as the card set up for the end in the soul really surprises your opponent for that pressure when you're getting off 3 attacks with your Vanguard come next turn when you ride into the ace card of your deck, being Dragonic Overlord The End. And that is it for the grade 3s. We'll now move on to the grade 2s. I run 4 Dragon Full Armored Buster. If your opponent has no rear guards, this unit gets plus 3,000 power. This skill works on Vanguard or rear. And on Vanguard or rear, when placed, you Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with Overlord and its card name from among them, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you can have your setup mostly met whenever you use this card. Checking the top 7, you usually will hit one of the 2 Dragonic Overlords that you're running in the deck, whether it be the End or the original Overlord, just so you can have the proper one, because most of the time I do not like to ride the End as my first ride target, because then I will be at a disadvantage with how many times I can restand the unit. So Dragon Full Armored Buster definitely does help for that setup in all of the Overlord decks, just being able to be the resource I need for the search, but also being able to retire an opponent's unit definitely does come in handy as well. And also, I run 4 Berserk Dragons. Still like this card in the deck for the draw power on Vanguard. If I call just as an option on the Van, it has the Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, retire, and then draw. And then also the plus 3,000 power when it attacks a Vanguard. If you have more Rearguards than your opponent, for the plus 3,000 power, being able to hit against your opponent's force grade 3s most of the time, or even the excel or protect being the perfect number with 13k power. And having a good rearguard attack is essential, I would say, in the deck, especially so you can have the multiple attacks with your Vanguard, but then also being able to rely on your rearguards for the 4th and 5th attacks also. And then lastly, to finish off the grade 2s, I want to run 3 Wyvern Strike to Cat. This one is your Counterblast 1. Put this unit into your soul. Choose one of your Dragonic Overlord at the end, and when your opponent would call from his or her hand to guard circle during the battle that unit attacked this turn, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So this card just makes your opponent use more and more resources if they're going to perfect guard any of the end attacks. If you can play out when you want to use this skill, especially against your opponent, to know when they need to throw down cards that they essentially don't want to. If you have plenty of critical on Dragonic Overlord at the end and they know they have to throw down a perfect guard to block the attack, I would say that's the best potential moment to go with this card for that play. I have the 2 Neo Flames in here just as filler until I receive the last 2 I need, but like I said, there's no reason to run Neo Flame in the deck since that card works with the Great. So 3 Wyvern Strike to Cat really works very, very well for the grade 2 lineup with Dragonic Overlord the end. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. I run 3 Sable Dragon. Now this will go up to 4. Then I'll show the card I would take out for the 4th one when you get it. When it attack hits on Vanguard, you draw a card. And when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can retire this unit from rear and draw a card. So you have draw power with this card either way. It's on the field and it's on your Vanguard. As long as you have the first attack, I really hate going first with this deck and having to ride this card. I tend to avoid and just ride another unit in the deck so I can make full use of it on Rearguard otherwise, because if I just ride it and pass turn, I'm just going to ride a grade 2 next turn and miss out on the draw. At least I'll have a draw because I'll be retiring with other cards, especially the grade 2 and this card with the deck. So I at least want to get a draw off with this card to go through the deck faster. But having that pressure, if you attack with a grade 1 first against your opponent, really makes them want to guard with the card, because then you'll have your drive check, you have the card from when you rode on your grade 0 starter, and then you'll have the card potentially got with Sable Dragon Newts. And I also run 4 Flame of Hope Airmo. During the battle that it boosted, it gets plus 3,000, so a good 11k booster with whatever unit that it boosts. And when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can retire this unit, draw a card, and countercharge 1. So with this and Dragon Newt, you have plenty of draw power to go with the deck. I just like it that it has the beneficial countercharge as well that Dragon Newt doesn't have. Both retire effects. If we had soul effects, I would think it would be much, much better. But I think it was to balance out, just for the fact that you really have to invest a good amount of your soul with Dragon Full Armor Buster, and you can't really use it that much more after unless you're doing consecutive grade 3 rides, because you'll need the Overlords in the soul to use for their own effects. And I also run the 4 Embodiment of Armor bar. Now with this card, I would mix around some of the numbers based on the additional cards. I would definitely take out 1 for another Dragon Newt for the 4th copy there. But it still has some good potential retire in the column effects. It just eats up a lot of your soul, so it would potentially come out maybe to mix around some of the next numbers that I'm going to show, but that's more than player preference with those cards. Those cards being Red Dive Griffin and Lizard Soldier Rapia. With Red Dive Griffin, it's a once per turn rearguard effect. When your opponent's guardian is placed during the battle boosted a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, choose one of your those rearguards, retire it, and at the end, one of those guardians, not rearguards, and at the end of that battle, retire this unit. So just having the potential to retire your opponent's guardians, it doesn't stop a Sentinel effect, remember that, but being able to get rid of other ones really makes your opponent, think about the resources they want to use when they see this card on rear. And also just with Ralpia, with all the retiring we can do in the deck, giving the plus 5,000 power for an additional boost to your units definitely does come in handy. If you want to switch around any of the numbers, I would say maybe just up the ratio of Red Dive Griffins if you want to take out Full Armored Bar completely to run 3 of this, and then also bump up your numbers of Ralphia to 4, just so you have those numbers on Rearguard. Plus, it's also just the potential ride target I'd go for over Sable Dragon if you didn't want to waste the ride target, since you wouldn't be attacking on the turn if you go first. And then that is it for the grade 1s. For the grade 0s, your starter, you got to go with Lizard Runner Undo for the Kai Dragonic Overlord deck. I know we got a new starter, but that is for Dragonic Blade Master. So I stuck with the Conroe. I mean, not Conroe. I wish we had Conroe. That'd be amazing. But Lizard Runner Undo for the Dragonic Overlord. And then for the trigger lineup, decided to stick with the 8 critical. I know we have 12 now as the option, but I still like to run the Draw Trigger Perfect Guard. So for Rakshasha and for Tar for 8 critical. And then I also run 4 Wyvern Guard Bari for the Draw Trigger Perfect Guard, and also the 4 Dragon Monk Genjo for the Heal Trigger. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. We got plenty more deck profiles to come from the Heroic Evolution, so definitely look forward to those. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.